Terence Bud Crawford, Saul Canelo Alvarez. Let's break it down with some keys to victory for both. And yes, there is a path to victory for both. I know some people will say there's no way Bud Crawford can win. Other people believe it's a foregone conclusion that Bud will win. But I strive to be objective. So, with that in mind, let's talk about the keys to victory for each. First, I'm going to start with Canelo, especially for those who have been shouting me down for even entertaining the possibility that Bud Crawford could pull the upset. If Saul Canelo Alvarez is going to emerge victorious, he needs to increase his volume. And I know some people may say, well, William Skull was running. I know they'll say he was running and thus Canelo didn't need to throw any punches. But I would point to Canelo's fight against Arislandi Lara. Lara was also on his bike. Yes, Lara threw more than William Skull. However, the strategy was more or less similar, and ironically, both are Cuban fighters, and they both looked to outscore Canelo. They both utilized a lot of movement. And honestly, Canelo was a lot more eager back then. He was a lot more eager to close the distance. And I would argue that he was able to edge out that victory against Lara because of his output, because of his willingness to sell out, to go to the body. Basically, his willingness to do damage, his willingness to impose his will. And I'm wondering if that still exists with Canelo. I believe it's there. However, he did not display that against William Skull. And a lot of people gave Canelo a pass, and I get it because the idea was, well, you have to quote unquote take the title from the champion. That's another discussion for another day. But basically, Canelo was content to stand in the middle of the ring and win by default. And I believe it's going to take more than that effort to defeat Bud Crawford. I believe that some people see it as Canelo being able to just bang on Bud Crawford's shoulders until Crawford falls apart. But if Canelo is throwing one punch at a time, I believe that a smaller fighter, especially if that smaller fighter builds themselves up, I believe they can brace for one shot at a time. So, yes, Canelo may hit harder than Bud Crawford's previous opponents, but you can brace for one shot at a time, especially if you're facing someone with a low output. And that's why I say that Canelo needs to increase his volume. For those who believe that Canelo will break Bud down, I believe that Canelo needs to make it known right off the bat that weight classes exist for a reason. And that's not by throwing one punch at a time, that's by putting together combinations. You can brace for one shot at a time. I'm sure that Bud Crawford is building up his shoulders for Canelo to bang on them, but it's a different proposition when you're talking about a left hook to the body, followed by a right hand, followed by a jab, followed by a right cross, or whatever combination. The point being is that Canelo is going to need to actually throw punches in order to accumulate the damage that people are expecting. All of the weight classes exist for a reason, people would say that Canelo is going to do damage. I believe Canelo needs to increase his volume in order to do that. It can't just be one shot at a time. As far as Bud Crawford, I believe that Bud needs to retain as much speed as possible. I don't necessarily look at it as the heavier he is, the better. I believe that he needs to weigh enough, obviously. I'm not saying that he needs to come in at lightweight like he did 10 years ago. However, I don't know that being a bodybuilder or trying to match Canelo's bulk is the answer. Bud Crawford is loose and limber and he throws whipping shots. I believe that his keys to victory are to throw whipping shots, not thudding shots. In other words, he needs to have the ability to move, not just to run, because some people will say, oh, well, I guess he's going to come in light just to run. I actually believe that Bud Crawford needs to come in to retain as much speed as possible for his offense. If he comes in lighter, I believe it would benefit his offense just as much as it would benefit his defense. I do not believe that Bud Crawford will overmove because overmoving is a thing. I don't believe that he would burn his legs out on purpose. I believe that he'll look to box in tight circles. I believe that he'll look to place his shots, which leads me to my next key to victory for Bud Crawford is he needs to work on landing clean shots or scoring shots. He doesn't need to knock Canelo out. I know people who are supporting Canelo will say that Bud's shots are going to tickle, or Bud's shots will not have any effect on Canelo. Well, even if Canelo walks through his shots, if Canelo's not landing his own shots, then Crawford is going to pile up rounds. Just think back to the Mayweather fight. Mayweather never really had Canelo seriously hurt. However, he was landing sharp punches, he was scoring. And no, I'm not making a comparison between Mayweather and Crawford, but I am drawing the parallel to say that you don't have to devastate Canelo to win. Dimitri Bivol, who, yes, he's a bigger fighter. I know, he's a light heavyweight. He was able to land scoring shots against Canelo. And I believe that Bud Crawford should look to do the same. And if I can say that if Canelo allows Bud Crawford to operate at his own pace, that's going to make it difficult down the stretch. Both guys like to be calculated. However, I believe it's on Canelo to make Bud feel the difference in weight classes. If it's a slow, methodical fight, then that means that Bud is able to operate comfortably. And he has great eyes. Yes, his eyes take some time to warm up, but once he dials in, he gets into his mode, he gets into his rhythm. That's why I believe that Canelo might want to get out of his shell a little bit and he might want to press the issue. Canelo might want to throw that left hook to the body early to make Bud feel the difference to say, hey, we're at 168 now. This is a different ball game. But anyway, I just wanted to give some keys to victory for both. I know that there are people who are adamantly on one side or the other. And those are the keys to victory that I see, and I'm looking forward to the fight, and I'll be doing more videos. Thanks for watching.